All right, good people. I said I wasn't going to milk this Knox Pro thing, but I want to get into the behind the scenes element of the Roger Jackson situation. So we're going to talk about Doug Melo, the guy who broke up the fight. He did a podcast discussing his involvement. We're also going to listen to AJ Mana, who was involved. He was the guy who brought Raja to Knox Pro. And this is important because we've been talking about Raja a lot. And there's been a lot of talk about Raja. There hasn't been a lot of talk about the school. And the school is at fault here. They the ones who put Raja in the ring, knowing that Raja was not a trained professional wrestler. So let's listen to Doug Melo, who has left the school. Well, I guess you could say the independent promotion. And this is going to be a pretty long bit because he has a lot to get off his chest. So we're going to listen to Doug, and obviously I'm going to stop it periodically to give my thoughts.
Stepped in and saved them. So we're gonna actually play a few clips first of everything that. So to get started with it, what actually happened to Stu? How bad are his injuries?
Broken facial bones is from what I'm hearing. Missing teeth. Has no recollection of what happened. Incoherent. And then even from the people closest to it now that I'm disassociating with, they won't even put up the full story. Stu's pretty fucked up, I'll put it this way. What happened yesterday is he choked on his own blood.
On his own teeth, I heard.
Yeah, teeth and blood.
And he lost all of his teeth? Right?
A lot of them, yeah. Broken.
Alright, so Stu put out a picture recently after he woke up from the hospital, and he does have quite a few teeth missing in this picture. He still really doesn't have much of a recollection, but we'll talk about that near the end, however. But I do want to talk about, let this guy continue his thought.
Facial bones. He was out on the slam, and then the guy had made contact multiple times. I remember seeing that, kind of being in shock, and then I just went. Outside of that, running in, there was other people that could have gotten involved that I made eye contact with, but they just stayed by the stage. Let me put it this way. I'm sorry to Stu that the people that said that they were your friends let this happen.
So how did you end up?
Well, I agree with that because this supposedly is a tight-knit community, when it comes to these independent promotions and these guys that work together for a long time. And a lot of these guys were frozen. They were shocked at what occurred. And I mean, it's understandable because you don't know how much of it's a work and how much of it is a shoot. But you could tell when a guy's getting his face beat in, for Christ's sake.
Involved, because from what I understand, you weren't part of that match, that segment. How did you end up out there in the middle of the ring during this match?
I just got done with my match. I was blown up, took the heat, did the shit. Then I get a whisper by somebody, hey, something is not right. I might need you to go out there and check a scenario. This guy's going to do a spot. When does the spot happen? Oh, we'll let you know. Well, you want to let me know, but you're not telling me when the cue is, when is the spot supposed to happen. You're just going to let me know just in case. All right, so I'm stuck waiting for this cue. I walk out to somebody with the radio. I said, hey, talk to the back. When do you guys want me to go? What's happening? I was informed about the beer can incident. Actually, shortly before that, they told me that they,
All right, so Doug didn't know about the beer can incident. So that's interesting because it seemed like there would be something most people would have known about, and he had no idea about the beer can incident. But he's being told, watch this situation, which means that somebody in a position of importance expected something to go wrong, or that it was possible for something to go wrong. This is all very interesting.
Made up, shook hands, hugged it out multiple times. So it was going to be fine, but they just want to make sure. I talked to the person out front with the radio. I walk back to the ring. I see the slam. I see the first punch, second punch, and by then I'm at people in front of me and I just start moving. I kind of wish I would have just sprung on the slam. So that's where I'm at. I mean, honestly, there's nothing worse than you watch somebody you care about. He's a veteran. He's me. And these are people who are supposed to love him. And I'm the only one on the outskirts to be told to watch this, apparently. And then I'm in there, and I'm battling, I'm doing whatever, trying to, work this. And I'm telling the guy to calm down, and now he's trying to fight me.
I mean, I hate to say this because, you're talking about another black man, but it's almost like if you're trying to stop a wild animal from assaulting somebody, Like, if you ever seen somebody get bit by like a dog or something, and you get involved, and there's always that chance that the dog will turn around and bite you too. Like, we're talking about a human being here, but we're also talking about somebody who is completely out of control. And when people are completely out of control, if you step in the way, you put yourself in the path of danger. And it seemed like Doug was the only person that the school was like, well, if something goes wrong, Doug will be able to stop it. But what if Doug couldn't stop it? Then Doug was fucked too. I don't know, man. This is just a bad idea. It's a horrible idea to do this.
I gotta calm down, and now he's trying to fight me. It's all fucked, you know, like it's...
So, them telling you to watch this and get involved, if this was supposed to be an angle, it kind of doesn't make any sense because you have nothing to do with their storyline or whatever. It seems like they kind of wanted you there just because you're the only one who can shoot, which in wrestling means for real fight, right?
It felt like it. Like how you'd use a dog. Like, hey, we'll send our bitch to go do this.
But the fact that they...
You could tell that with that response, he was offended. You know, that he wasn't really told what was going on, but was told to watch this situation kind of like a guard dog, you know? And I would have been offended too. I mean, I would have understood ultimately. But if you are not sure about what could possibly happen, maybe you don't do it. This kind of, again, you put this guy in danger too. And that can be twice as offensive because not only did somebody he cares about get hurt, but you put him in a situation where he could get hurt too.
Told you to watch out and, you know, be ready. And the fact that this had nothing to do with any of the storylines kind of shows that this was premeditated, right?
I think the premeditation part comes on the side of AJ Mana. You brought somebody that was volatile that you knew had issues.
So real quick, that's the friend of Raja who brought him to the...
That's the small calves, small ass, chicken legs bitch with the cowboy hat.
So this fight, whatever you want to call it.
All right, so clearly you see how he feels about AJ Mana, who's going to be very upset when we listen to him later, but just put a pin in how Doug feels about AJ Mana.
Raja Jackson...
Attempted murder.
Right, this attempted murder, he landed like 20-something punches on him. 23 punches on him. You pull him off, and then he tried to go at you, so that was he trying to continue beating him even further?
I think the culmination between his dad picking on him and all his daddy issues came out, and all the shit that AJ gassed up into his head, because let me put it this way, I don't like Raja. I think Raja's a shit person for what he did. But I think AJ's a bigger shit person for gassing him up to be in that fucking ring, to leading him to ruin his own fucking life, to hurt somebody that AJ also has a fucking problem with. You can't fucking...
Oh, okay. Okay. So, that's a little bit of the backstory there, is that AJ has a problem with Stu. And he basically sicked Raja on Stu? Is that what I'm being told here? Let's play that back a little bit. Let's see what's happening.
Raja. I think Raja's a shit person for what he did. But I think AJ's a bigger shit person for gassing him up to be in that fucking ring, to leading him to ruin his own fucking life, to hurt somebody that AJ also has a fucking problem with. You can't fucking tell me that's not... I don't believe in coincidence.
He was basically trying to put the blood on someone else's hands.
Exactly. Because he's not going to do it himself. Mm-hmm. You know?
Oh. Okay. Now... AJ Mana, we're going to talk about him in a minute again, but apparently he went on a really long rant on Instagram and it was taken down. So I don't know. We're not going to get his full side of the story, but it's very interesting because this guy knows the inside baseball to the promotion and knows these guys might have some heat. And AJ Mana, when we get there, we might just talk about it now. He trained with Raja Jackson. So he went to the same training facility as Raja. That's how he knows him. To think that he would sick another man on somebody else is pretty bitch made, if it's true. But it's also kind of sad that you have heat with somebody and you can't handle it yourself, so you gas up somebody else to handle it. That's real bitch made. Jesus.
The few little backyard fights he fucking got in where he got beat the up, and then you got somebody that's a real fighter, trained by somebody that's one of the greatest of all time, and then you had him do your dirty work. He ruined 2 people's lives.
So what happened when you got involved with Raja? Why did he want to keep going? Well, I know his chat was like gassing him up to leading up to it, which we've talked about.
Another reason why live streaming is toxic.
Yeah.
Just goes to show.
When you're a man, you're in control of your life. If you do things for other men, you're their bitch. You are not a man,
Basically
you're a
what live
puppet.
streamers are.
Doug, so what happened when you and him squared off?
I just went in there to stop it first, because I was kind of in shock. I saw Stu. I saw the punches. It felt like slow motion. I'm looking around. I'm looking at Stu's friends staring at me, not running in. I'm only running in. Somebody f***ing pinned Stu after he almost got beat to death. People are so chicken.
Oh yeah, so that did occur. Somebody actually pinned Stu in the match to end the match, and the referee made the count. These people are absolutely ridiculous people. And that video didn't come out until a little bit later after this interview was done, that some dickhead thought it was important to actually finish the match. That should tell you how delusional and ridiculous and in the bubble some pro wrestlers can be. You need to... What the hell were you thinking at a time like this?
Shit. That they don't understand violence. They don't understand what's going on. They don't want to partake in anything. They weren't willing to save their friend. They would rather worry about their own image, their self, their match, or this. Sometimes the world stops. Sometimes the world stops. You could go to the store one day, be shopping for fucking groceries, and if you see an old lady get beat up and fucking robbed, you have to do something. Sometimes the world stops. So these fucking people are sitting in the fucking ring watching a man get beat to death that they call the fucking friend. The people in the back are fucking telling me, hey, can you go out there and make sure nothing bad happens? So now I got all this responsibility. But at the same time, if I'm AJ Mana, if I'm the people that told me to go out there, if that's the person I brought, or I know this whole situation's going on, I'd be right at the fucking ring. If somebody told me that Ian had the possibility of having a fucking fingernail being put out of place because somebody might be a little off in the ring, you think I would take a fucking chance of my friend getting hurt? I'd be in the fucking corner of the ring on the very side in the front fucking row. You couldn't move me from the fucking spot. I'd run the whole fucking show. Fuck all of you. That's my friend. That's my family. That's somebody who means more to me than anything in the world. I would never let something fucking touch him. I would die before something hurts my family. And all
right, so he's being very hyperbolic. He's drinking. But the issue, the question here is that AJ Mana was supposedly Stu's friend, had a feeling that Raja was going to get out of control, and AJ Mana didn't stop it, which is a good question. Where was he during this whole ordeal? Where was he when this occurred?
the people that called him family, where the fuck were they? And then when we're in the ring and I'm breaking it up and he shoots a fucking double leg on me, by the way, work a better fucking double leg, you fucking prick. And then I'm telling you to fucking calm down. I'm not even fucking fighting. I'm not even being fucking hostile. Then you're trying to fucking work and get lower, do this, change positions, and I'm over here having to swim with you, all this other shit. And then you fucking punch me in the fucking eye after we're breaking it up, you fucking loser. That's why you got fucking headbutt, and that's why I fucking punch you, and you're fucking lucky I was tired from the match before this. What kind of fucking person are you? You fucking low-life fucking clown. You want fucking clout, so you beat up a guy that's fucking half unconscious. You punch a guy that's trying to break up a fight and not even trying to fight you. I wasn't even trying to fucking hurt you. The fuck is wrong with you?
So, do you think he wanted...
Okay. This is as a person who has broken up many fights, it's never a good idea to get in the middle of people fighting. It's never a good idea. Sometimes it's your job. Sometimes you had to do it. But it's never a good idea to get involved when people are fighting. It's a mistake. They almost always redirect their anger towards you. Or, even worse, you get accused of trying to help one person over the other. This was always the case. Short story. When I worked as a youth worker in a boys' home, whenever they would get into a fight, I will always grab the biggest boy, because he obviously can do the most damage. Even if he's not the most aggressive one, I would grab the biggest boy. I would always get accused of helping the other guy. Like, Because in reality, if you grab somebody's arms, right, especially if you pull them away, you grab their arms, if it's just you, you're not supposed to break up fights by yourself. But if it's just you, you get accused of helping the other guy because he gets to throw a free punch or a free kick or whatever, spit or whatever, while you're trying to break up the fight. This is why they train you there has to be somebody to grab each person. Now, over time, of course, you grab the person who is the most aggressive, right? But you also want to stop the fight. I was always accused of being the guy who kept fights going or kept issues going because you can only grab one person at a time. All right, so you grab the one person who can do the most damage, usually the person who's winning the fight. That's who you grab. And it always leads to misplaced anger with them. Now they're mad at you because you're stopping them from doing what they want to do to this other person. Or if it could even be worse, if they get sucker punched and they get their nose broken or they get a black eye or something like that, and it's because you interfered. Now you're in a bigger situation. Now you're the target, you know? So good on Doug for taking that chance because it's dangerous. You don't know the level of skill this guy has when he's, in there doing stuff like this. It'd have been one thing if he was just like a regular jabroni, but as a guy who has some kind of mixed martial arts training, somebody like me, he would have taken me out. You're not even lying to you or holding you up. And that's really probably what scared so many people to get involved is they don't have that kind of training. And if he'd have double-legged them and took them down, they'd have been getting their ass kicked in too. Now, I skipped ahead to the part where we're going to discuss Knox Pro staff trying to prevent a police investigation. I simply can't go through this entire video. We'll be here all night, for God's sake.
But the most disgusting thing is that people at this school are being encouraged to not cooperate with the police. From what I hear, the police were there investigating the scene shortly after Stu was removed, and there has been multiple requests that have gone downstream from upper management to not talk with the police directly if they are contacted and to only let a certain group of individuals interact with the police. That is...
All right, so let's talk about this. We're going to go through the text messages first because they put them on the screen. So a gentleman by the name of Kevin Thomas says, please refrain from engaging in comment sections on social media posts about this tragedy. It will be weaponized and potential criminal and civil cases fly low. If law enforcement or an attorney for the suspect contacts you in any capacity, let someone know right away for guidance on how to address them at everyone. Now, this bothers a lot of people, but I want to try to explain it. I'm not going to justify it, but I want to try to explain it. I have been involved with quite a few lawsuits in dealing with situations in where the police are investigating. The company wants to speak with one voice. That's what they want. Okay? They don't want 100 different stories from 100 different people floating around. All right? Now, the truth is somewhere within those 100 different stories. Now, the company is supposed to do some kind of internal investigation to come up with an internal narrative about what occurred. And basically, they're supposed to say, hey, to the police, hey, this is what we know so far. We interviewed such and such, and this is what they said. And we speak with one voice on this issue, and our opinion is blank. If you have 50 different people going into comment sections, posting about it, talking about it, then you get 50 different versions of the story out there. And some of that stuff could not be true. Some of it could be true. Us being consumers of this information, we don't know who was there and who wasn't, right? So if somebody put something out there and they wasn't even present, then that could get roped into the story. But we, the people who are reading it, if you're reading it in a comment section or something like that, you don't even know that that person was not present, right? That could be one issue. Another issue is you open up various liabilities and other issues. Now, people don't like this, but this is very, very corporate. When you're dealing with a situation like this and a guy's been seriously injured and there's probably going to be a lawsuit, there might be a criminal investigation. Yes, there's going to be some closing of the ranks by the company. The company's going to want to control the narrative as much as possible, control the flow of information as much as possible. Again, this is a clarification. This is not a justification. I'm not saying this is right or wrong. I'm saying this is what they're trying to do.
Management to not talk with the police directly if they are contacted, and to only let a certain group of individuals interact with the police. That is extremely dishonest. You guys let your friend almost die, and now you're trying to have people lie for you. And fuck you to every single person who replied to them, yes, sir. You are all weak sacks of shit, and I hope you rot in hell. You are wasting oxygen that other people could be breathing. Go fuck yourself. And if you continue to be complacent in this investigation and you side with the people who you know are in the wrong, I wish nothing but the worst for you.
Is there any...
Alright, so I definitely suggest that the people who were present give statements to the police. I agree that they should not give statements to social media. I will say that. But to the police, there should absolutely be cooperation with the police. Because why should the police face any resistance from people whose friend just got his shit kicked in? Why are you resisting? Right? Again, I just explained it before. The company wants to limit their liability, and I'm pretty sure all the people, and there was a slew of people who said, yes, sir, I don't want to be involved with this. Yes, it's pathetic that these people are trying to protect their bookings, even though this place is probably going to get sued into oblivion, But it's also a situation where they don't want to be involved. This is one of those situations where if you are a witness to this, bro, you don't want to be a part of this. Trust me, if you've been in bad situations, you've been in the middle of a lawsuit, you've been in the middle of internal investigations, there's nothing more fucking annoying than people constantly calling you into offices, calling you on the phone, you having to tell the same story over and over again. If you slip up and say the ink pens were blue in one conversation and then say it was black in another, the fucking lawyers are going to be up your ass about it. That's why they say don't say anything. Because if you say it happened at 4 o'clock and it happened at 4:30, they're going to be up your ass about it. If you say it took place on a Saturday night and it was Sunday morning, they're going to be up your ass about it. So, and people don't know this. They think, okay, I'm just going to help out and give all the information I can, but they're not consistent because they remember other things later. They forget certain things. They get tripped up by details. The police offer information and you're like, oh yeah, that, and it's all a mess. And you never know what kind of lawyers you're going to be in front of. Are you going to be in front of civil lawyers who are going to be nitpicking everything, or criminal lawyers who are going to be nitpicking everything? And for a lot of people, that's a lot of stress and responsibility. And you could drag yourself into the middle of something. You could actually actively hurt a case that you're trying to help. And that's another thing that needs to be taken into consideration. If you're trying to help Stu and, put Raja in prison, you don't want to be accused of lying to put Raja in prison. You also don't want to forget something that would put Raja in prison. And you don't want to add something that doesn't help. So these are just things to consider. Again, clarification, not justification. If you personally get into a situation like this and you think you can help, you probably should. But for a lot of other people, it's best, especially if you're, eyewitness testimony is not the best in court anyway, because people remember things later. They forget things, as I said before. But if you're a person who really wants to help and you feel like this is something that you want to get involved with, I say go for it. But for most people, you don't really want to be involved with this kind of shit, man. Trust me. It's especially if you don't want to deal with stress. It's not just a matter of, I'm going to give a statement, I'm a hero, and you walk away. No, it don't work that way. All right, let's pivot now to AJ Mana, who has been fired from Knox Pro. And he's going to go on a pretty stiff rant. And it's very interesting. So for those of you who haven't been paying attention, AJ Mana is the individual that was wearing a cowboy hat in Raja's video. And let's talk about what he has to say.
That's a receipt, bitch. That's all the fuck I told Raja to do. The only thing I told Raja to do was give him a fucking receipt because that's what the promoter wanted to do, to fucking be done.
This is storyline, and then the shit gets out of hand, and you not
watch the video. Who told Raja to throw the punch? Watch the fucking video. Here. I'll give you a hint. You ready? And I quote. Get in there and fuck that motherfucker up.
You run in and fuck that motherfucker up in the mat. You ready for that?
Yeah.
Did that come out of my mouth? Nope, came out of the promoter's mouth. Fuck you.
Alright, so they actually showed the video where the promoter asked Raja if he wanted to fuck him up or if he was ready to fuck him up, and Raja said yes. That's pretty damning, but that shows that the culture of Knox Pro is pretty shitty. Because Stu is right there. He's not that far away from this whole situation. And we don't know what they mean by fuck that motherfucker up, right? We don't know if he's taking that literally or what. It certainly did not mean throw 22 unanswered shots to the face. I'm almost certain it didn't mean that. But AJ Mana is pushing responsibility and pushing blame onto the promoter, which the promoter absolutely deserves. And that's the reason this video exists, because Knox Pro is largely responsible for what Raja did. Yes, Raja is a wild animal, a human Rottweiler. He's full of shit. His daddy is full of shit. Yes, his daddy issues is what caused all of this. But none of this happens if the promoters don't put him in the fucking ring in the first place. And AJ Mana, who was outed as being the guy who, told him to go give him a receipt, who is friends with Raja, he got outed by Tom Lawler as being a guy who sort of broke the wrestling code and basically set Stu up. And that's still true. It's still true because he also came behind the promoter and didn't say, hey, he don't mean literally ruin his fucking life. He means, go in there, pop him a couple of times, and then that's it. This whole thing is a case study in some very nasty stuff. Because yes, Raja was offended about the beer can situation. Yes, the promoter is using very loosely go fuck him up, and so is AJ Mana. But then you got the chat. We don't know what chat was saying in terms of all the different people that was gassing Raja up. Then you got Rampage, who was, making fun of them for going to a wrestling show and getting hugged on by men in tights. All this stuff is literally kindling on the fire. None of it can be discounted. It's a perfect storm. When you talk about a case study of how things can go wrong, and you was to write this out and underline all the things that could possibly go wrong, one of the biggest things is this all happens because the promotion put him in the ring. It doesn't matter what the chat says if he's not going to get in the ring. It doesn't matter what Rampage says if he can't get into the ring. Because he's going to be put in the ring, all this stuff is now important. If the promoter did not decide to put him in the ring, then all of this could have been avoided. Back to AJ.
What, I'm supposed to kayfabe this shit to protect them? Fuck you. Y'all niggas watching me burn. Y'all told me to shut up and not say nothing just so I can fucking get buried. Fuck y'all. No, I ain't shutting up about nothing. I'm telling the whole fucking truth. Like it or not. And if you don't like it, pull up, bitch. I ain't got nothing to lose. Pull up. Motherfucker.
He mad as hell, boy. That's a mad man. He mad in the motherfucker.
One point that I really want to overemphasize is that he knew beforehand that Raja was not a worker. He was not a worker. He knew that beforehand,
Okay, so this other guy, who I'm not sure who he is saying that Stu knew that Raja was not a worker. Now, that's an interesting element to add, because a lot of people's sympathy for Stu comes from the fact that it might have been an innocent mistake, especially if he's backstage. It might have been an innocent mistake that, he approached a guy he didn't know, thought he was working, and he could, mess around with him. If Stu knew that he wasn't a worker, then why would he do that with him? What was the point of that? What was the benefit of that? And that would affect the sympathy towards Stu for sure. But of course, Stu hasn't told his side of the story yet. Wait a second. What am I doing?
You just looked at the video. It looks like, I didn't know. I'm sorry, I didn't know. But from somebody that was there, that's not the truth.
Hello? What is alcohol doing in the fucking locker room? Why are we getting intoxicated before the fucking show? Every fucking show for 6 years. And tell me if I'm lying, motherfucker, because I did it with you. Yeah, that part.
Alright, so AJ Mana has essentially outed Knox Pro as a promotion that put men in the ring after they were drinking. The promoter, who apparently is there backstage, knows that the wrestlers are drinking and puts them in the ring drunk. You need to shut the whole damn thing down. Just shut it down. I'm surprised nothing like this happened previously at this point then. He said for 6 years, they have all been getting drunk before the shows. Bro, this, again, if you was to write this out as a case study for a master's student, there's so many different things going wrong that it's unconscionable. The amount of neglect and recklessness and inappropriateness that is going on here. You had a guy who is not a wrestler in your locker room, for starters. You're drinking in the locker room. You had a guy who was clearly, if he was drunk, interacting in a wrestling way with a non-wrestler, and nobody stopped it. And then you decided to put the non-wrestler in the ring and then told him, go fuck him up. You told him that more than once. So that's 4 major red flags right there. And this is number 5 is, once you put him in the ring, you didn't really tell him what to do. You didn't give him any directions. You just kind of told him, go fuck him up. And then it happened. And now you're trying to put the lid on it. You want to bury AJ Mana, throw him to the wolves because he was stupid enough to say it on the kick stream, because he was going along with what the promoter wanted. You have this guy's life has been ruined, and deservedly so, because you could have smartened him up. You absolutely could have smartened him up. You chose not to. Instead, y'all decided to rile this guy up and then cut him loose with no directions and no training and this makes it even worse, because if you got Stu drunk and then cut this guy loose on him, this is fucked up. It's fucked up inside and out. I mean, this cancer just has more and more spots. It's disgusting. And the crazy thing is, it's been going on for so long. 6 years they were drinking before the shows. That's insane, bro. It's absolutely insane. It's reckless beyond belief, neglectful beyond belief. And if you want to know why Raja hasn't been arrested, this is why Raja hasn't been arrested. The police investigation has to know all of this stuff, that these guys were drunk and roughhousing backstage. And this guy wasn't fucking around. They let a wolf in the hen house and then also defanged the only people who could protect them by making sure everybody was fucking drunk. This is a mistake. This is stupid. This is dumb. And if you want to know why Raja isn't in prison, this is why Raja isn't in prison. All right? every time you hear new stories coming out of this situation, it leans more and more on Knox Pro being unprofessional, inappropriate, irresponsible, and neglectful. And it seems like it's their fault this happened. This is not a matter of Raja just being set off and jumping in the ring. This is a perfect storm of a mentally ill, emotionally dysregulated young man who was put in a situation where he was going to overcome a humiliation that he faced at the hands of these supposedly drunk pro wrestlers. Now, after listening to that rant by AJ Mana, I actually want to put out his original statement, just for the record, just to make sure to be completists here. So shortly after the incident occurred, AJ Mana, Andre Joel Hudson, said, "I want to take a moment to address the recent incident at Knox Pro. First and foremost, my thoughts are with Psycho Stu and his family. No one ever wants to see a fellow performer get seriously hurt. There's been a lot of speculation online about my role that night. The truth is, I was in character and speaking in the language of wrestling. Everything I said was part of the show, and I never intended or encouraged real harm. That was a situation that unfortunately got out of hand due to miscommunication behind the scenes. Wrestling is built on trust, respect, and protecting each other in the ring. That's what I stand for, and anyone who has worked with me knows that. I respect this business, I respect the fans, I respect the performers who step in between those ropes. I hope we can focus on Stu's recovery and make sure something like this never happens again." Well, that was before he was fired, right? Now, the rant that I played earlier was after he was fired, all right? He continues, and I'm going to have to read this because somebody actually provided a transcription to the interview. So the parts of the interview that happened while he was screaming and yelling, apparently, and all got taken down. AJ Mana, pronouns pal, said that the beer can was not a prop and that it wasn't a work and that it wasn't a storyline, it was a fucking shoot. He said the promoter was saying, "Raja, I'm so sorry this happened to you. Calm down, we'll work this out." What they really meant was, "We don't want a lawsuit, we need an alibi." He admits that he told to give Smith a receipt, and that's all the fuck I told Raja to do, which of course we heard him screaming about. He then continued by saying some jabroni from production told him, "Don't just throw one punch, slam him and keep hitting him until we pull you off." And then AJ Mana says, "Guess where I was? Nowhere near it. I was getting ready for my match." So, apparently, there's a lot more to the story. And this is where, of course, I mentioned previously that you don't want too many different stories going out there. Because we got two people talking, and it's not looking very good for Knox Pro if even one of them is correct. And these are just two people. There were certainly more people there, certainly some other witnesses that saw this thing occur. What are they going to bring out if they're talked to and they're discussed and the police do their own investigation and lawyers start getting involved because there's going to be lawsuits thrown around? What's going to happen from that point forward? It's not looking good for those of us who will probably want to see Raja in prison for what he did to Stu, because look at the amount of neglect that Knox Pro is putting forth. And we've just listened to just two people. Again, this is just two people who were involved with the situation. And we were told just from these two people that Knox Pro is fucked up. They both agreed. That's the thing. AJ Mana and Doug Melo both shit on Knox Pro for the way that this situation occurred and the way that it was handled. And Doug is positioned as being the hero, and AJ Mana is positioned as being the villain, but they both put a large majority of the blame on Knox Pro and how they chose to handle this situation and the lead into the situation. Doug complained that he was the only person that was put in a position to help Stu, and that the company closed ranks once something bad happened and tried to prevent other people from helping Stu, even if it's just, giving a police statement. And then you hear from AJ Mana that they were drinking before the show, that the promoter is the one who suggested the whole idea of putting Raja in the ring. And if you're the police, what do you think in this situation? Do you think that this is an attempted murder and we're going to call it a day? Let's arrest Raja Jackson, throw him in prison. This is attempted murder. Or do you say, look, this is a fucked up situation, but he got into it with these drunk guys, and he definitely has some level of fault because he has to control his own behavior. But these drunk guys were picking a fight with him, and then they gave him directions to go in there and fuck him up. And maybe he misunderstood the directions. It was a miscommunication. I mean, apparently these guys are backstage drinking. They probably don't even remember what they said to him. Again, this stuff is on Kickstream. And so he's got evidence that they were drinking. AJ Mana, who is his friend, works with them. There's pictures of Raja and AJ Mana together. It's now on, going on streams saying that, these people were drunk. This is why everything has been so slow. This investigation is not open and shut. There's more video than just the attack. There's quite a few stories floating around there too. And now they have to interview each of the wrestlers. What did you see? Were you drinking? Did you see other people drinking before the shows? This is going to affect the entire company. Because if this company is that neglectful, you don't have to just worry about whether WWE is going to separate themselves with the ID program. You're going to worry if they're going to get their license pulled. If you're putting wrestlers in the ring and they're drunk, they're going to pull your fucking license. You're not going to even be able to run shows in California anymore. And they should. If you're putting people in the ring drunk, they could get hurt. Somebody could get hurt. A fan could get hurt. Yes. They should pull your fucking license. You should not be able to run shows anymore because you are too neglectful and irresponsible. This cannot go on. It's a bright red line. You cannot put drunk people in the ring. You cannot put partial retards in the ring. All right? Raja Jackson clearly ain't, his elevator don't go all the way to the top. His turkey ain't baked all the way through. All right? This guy is a extremely rare bird. And we can blame Rampage all day. And it's true. But once you look at the totality of everything, you say, this guy is in some ways, he was set up too. In some ways, there were no safeguards to prevent him from taking it this far. Nobody was alert. Not only are these people in shock because they never faced this kind of violence before, but some of them might even been drunk. So they're not even prepared to defend themselves in this sort of situation. This is all fucked up. Anyway, Stu's out of the hospital. On his Facebook account, it says Stewart has been released from the hospital and is now home resting. He sustained a serious head injury and was unconscious upon arrival at the ER. His injuries include trauma to both the upper and lower jaws, a laceration in his upper lip, and a fracture to the maxilla bone, which unfortunately resulted in the loss of several teeth. He has a long road of recovery ahead, but he remains in good spirits despite everything he has been through. We are deeply grateful for all the love and support we've received during this time. Thank you to everyone who has contributed in any way, whether through monetary donations, food, flowers, or gifts. Your kindness means more than words can express. From the bottom of my heart, thank you with love and respect, Contessa Patterson, and Stuart Smith, aka Psycho Stu. Alright, in closing, this situation has really revealed the nature of independent wrestling promotions, especially small independent wrestling promotions. If a promotion owned by, a family that is very, very connected to WWE, if they have drunk wrestlers that they're putting in the ring and they're doing all sorts of outlaw garbage, what is these other promotions doing, for God's sake? You would think a promotion that is tightly involved with WWE would have a tighter ship, that people would pay more attention, that these things would not occur. And it just goes to show how irresponsible the people involved are. It is truly sad that it took for a situation like this to reveal it, but it's actually a blessing that it actually occurred, because now WWE has to pay more attention to what they label as an official program and the schools that they stamped. When they stamped the initial ID schools, they just stamped all the schools that were already in some way related to WWE, like Seth Rollins' school and Cody Rhodes' school and Rikishi's school, because he's part of the Samoan family and all that sort of stuff, instead of doing their due diligence. This guy was screaming that they've been getting drunk before shows for 6 years. You didn't tell me WWE did any sort of investigation into Knox Pro before they gave them a WWE ID stamp. They didn't. They just said, oh, Rikishi, we know him, we love him, we got the entire family here. Yeah, go ahead and get him the stamp. Turns out they were grandfathered in, and a goddamn tragedy occurred less than a year after they were stamped with the ID. So there's so many different things going on at this point in time. And clearly, the only way, I said I wasn't going to milk this story, and I'm not gonna, but it was very interesting to look at this story from the perspective of putting most of the blame on Raja Jackson, and then you let the story develop a little bit more, and you see that the Raja Jackson part, he was a grenade and the pin was pulled, and clearly somebody threw the grenade. But you also have to take into account how he even got put in that situation in the first place. And then when you look at that, it's more than just somebody carelessly decided to put him in the ring after an accident. This was a series of ineptitudes that could have cost a man his life, and probably will cost Rikishi his company. I would, if I'm working in the state of California, I would consider pulling the license for Knox Pro Wrestling Academy. I would consider it. If I could do an internal investigation by the state, and I find out that these guys were drinking before shows for 6 years, I would at least suspend their license so they couldn't continue to run shows. And then Rikishi would have to clean house completely, which may even mean firing members of his own family or repositioning them or something. But something needs to be done. If you want Raja put in prison, then you have to say these people need to be held responsible too, because it's their irresponsibility which is likely going to let Raja skate on this situation, because their stuff is so fucked up that they might be like, look, this poor guy walked into a situation where these guys were drinking and acting stupid backstage, and he wasn't playing the games that they were playing, and maybe he misunderstood. But that's neither here nor there. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I'll talk to you good people later, and peace out.
MagMongoSlade. Best house I ever drew, daddy.